My name is Sam Nicoletti, and I see murders before they happen. A little voice tells me the killer's name and address. And if I stop them, I save a life. If I ignore them, an innocent human dies. What would you do in my situation?
Psychic Sam is a classic boys comic. It's about a guy with a big gun who goes out and solves problems, and he hears voices in his head tell him to kill bad guys. The only trouble is the bad guys haven't done anything yet, but every time he ignores it, someone innocent dies, and it's only a matter of time before the bodies start piling up.
I'm working with a guy named Mark Millar. Mark and I started on Wolverine together, and we got to create Kick-Ass, and we had a brilliant time. It changed our lives. So now we come up with a third collaboration, and it's called Psychic Sam, and I have the legend Klaus Janson working with me, and then the brilliant Bill Crabtree doing the color art. And we are having an all-out blast with this.
The big news is we're also doing a movie of Psychic Sam. There's a guy called Ivan Atkinson who's brilliant. He's Guy Ritchie's producer, and he's produced some of my favourite films from Guy. Wrath of Man, The Gentleman, all these amazing films Guy's been doing over the last few years.
Ivan Atkinson, yeah. I'm excited to be teaming up with Mark Millar and his exciting new project, Psychic Sam. Mark and I have been talking about working together for a number of years, and I found the project that I think brings fascinating characters and action together, reminded me of the films I grew up loving.
This is completely outside of Millar World and Netflix and all the stuff I've been doing for the last 20 years, really.
None of those books will be affected, and all our new titles will still be out there every month. I just carved out a wee holiday for myself and thought about doing something for maybe Marvel or DC again. Then I thought, wouldn't it be great to do some creator ones with Johnny Romita Jr.?
There's so many great tiers to this, so many great levels to this. We're gonna do a black and white version with a painted cover.
Done in the style of a 1970s Marvel magazine, beautifully packaged in that big magazine size format.
There's hardcovers, there's t-shirts, there's trading cards, there's stickers.
Spectacular stuff. You can also get written and drawn into the issues, which would be a lot of fun. I have to do justice to all of you.
We're assembling a fantastic team of filmmakers on this production, and we will have some more information for you guys soon.
We just are having so much fun with the character. It's probably as good as it gets, but the fact that it's the third time with Mark, it's a charm.
I think there's something special brewing here, so don't miss it.
Rob, good to see you.
Mark, good to see you, buddy.
Always good to see you. Now, I know you're like me and you got up super early. What time were you up this morning?
I am up about 5 a.m. Pacific time, but I can't get on the bike because my stationary bike.
Too noisy?
I have to. My wife has to wake up so I can get on it because I don't want to wake her up. But then I get my hour ride in, showered, boom, I'm ready to go.
You do an hour on the bike every morning?
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
It's more for this than anything, Mr. Mark. Yeah, I if I didn't ride my bike every day, I can't imagine my stress. I read Twitter. That's where all my crazy tweets are while I'm on the bike.
Good thing it's a stationary bike. If you're on the road, that could be disastrous.
That's right.
Do you know Johnny Romita is the only guy who does a little more? I do 30 minutes in the gym in the morning. You do an hour. Johnny Romita, 2 hours of heavy weights every morning. He's up at 4:30. It's crazy.
I bumped into him at a gym in, I think, Vegas. We were at a show and he was in there working out way too hard.
It's crazy. This is why he looks 25. I mean,
yeah, he's a good looking guy.
That's great.
Remember, hunk of the month. He's John Romita Jr., hunk of the month, Mark.
He told me a funny thing. He said that his grandfather, when he was getting older, was starting to kind of lose it a little bit. And he thought he was Eric Estrada. And I can kind of see that as well. You know, you can
I do. I see it. I see it as well. Now, what time is it with you?
It's 5 in the evening here, but I've been since 5 a.m. as well, you know. So, and it's not even that thing, you know. I wish I could say it was just to get up and have a pee, you know, typical middle-aged man. Yeah. I'm actually dying to get started every morning. Like, I just really.
Me too.
You know. Yeah.
So we're morning people. We are morning people.
Unless I'm drinking, I'm sleeping by 10 o'clock. If I'm drinking, I can go all night, you know. But like,
yeah, I honestly, Mark, it's hard for me to stay up till 11 now. I don't know. I'm 57, not the oldest guy, not the youngest guy, but my habits have definitely changed.
You're kind of the Tom Cruise, though. I feel you keep yourself in kind of good shape. You always feel kind of current,
You have a lot of kids too. It's the kids, keeping up with them. My wife's very active, so anyway, it's fun.
Am I imagining it, or did one of your kids get married recently?
Yeah, we like literally we're like, is it going to get better than this?
Yeah.
My son's wife and her mom planned this incredible destination wedding. We've never been. It was in Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. And Mark, I mean, it was it was 3 months ago, and we're still buzzing. So thank you. We are buzzing off it. It was just a great time. We're on a boat. We're at these swanky restaurants. We're at this killer hotel. It was like I was like, her name's Haley. I said, you and your mom crushed it. We had the best time. And I drew comics. I always draw wherever I am on vacation. I want to have a memory of drawing. So I was out there, while everyone was sleeping early in the morning. I'm up there. It's very peaceful. I think you're a workaholic as well. You produce a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's if you don't, you're restless. I want to be accomplishing something.
Yeah. Well, I just did a 3-week holiday with the family, and I arranged meetings during the holiday. Like when I was in America, I just set up a couple of meetings while I was there.
You were in America?
Yeah. On the East Coast, though. We were on the East Coast.
Well, meeting with your Netflix people?
Them and also some other people as well, and also some old pals. Like I met up with some of the Marvel guys.
Oh, you got your big announcement that we can't talk about.
Oh my God, yeah. What's great is this will come out, I think, on Wednesday or Thursday, and the announcement's on Tuesday, so we can talk freely. Now, do you know what the announcement is? Because I've told you.
I don't. Okay. So what are you giving me? Are we recording? And am I? Yeah, I am at. This will not come out until after that.
This won't come out till after. It won't be out till Thursday.
Okay.
So I can tell you.
All I know, you left me hanging.
Yeah.
And here's the deal: you are witness to Mr. Mark Millar, are witness to the fact that I can keep a damn secret, even if it doesn't come true. You told me something that was so beyond highly classified, and I could, if I was the Rob Liefeld that everyone thought I was, I'd have nuked that shit. But I just go, wow. Now, I think, whatever happens, I'm hoping it's something else, but if it's that, it'll be brilliant because you'll make it brilliant.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. I mean, it's kind of public knowledge now, by the time this goes out. But I was in Oman, out in the Middle East about 18 months ago, and I was out swimming in the sea. And you're like this as well, where you think, I've just had a great Superman story. Like I had a great idea for a Superman story. And I swam really fast back to the boat, and I got some paper, tried not to get it all wet, wrote it all down. Anyway, I mentioned it on Twitter, and DC saw it, got in touch and said, would you like to write it? And I was like, well, my job at Netflix means I can't really work for Warner Brothers and everything, but that'd be nice at some point. And in Marvel, just by chance, CP Cebulski said, look, we'd love it if you come back and did some kind of big event for us, know? Yeah. And you know what that event is that I want to do,
Yes.
And the Marvel guys said, you could literally do anything you want apart from that event, because the one I mean is so politically.
So we're not going to talk about it. So that's not happening.
That's not happening yet. It's going to happen though, because I'm working in the background. I'm working in the background to make that happen, right? But
sorry, I'm wiping my camera to make sure it's clear. So good. I'm glad I didn't say that thing. So I have kept that thing under wraps.
But I've got that.
Now, Mark, you're the only person that could ever pull that thing off. And you told me how that thing started. And I went, damn, I would read that. Okay, so are you telling me, oh my gosh, am I finding out right now that you are doing a kick-ass DC project?
No, I decided to do neither. So what I did was I carved out 12 weeks to do something outside of Millar World, because I've worked in Millar World for 20 years, right? Okay. So I thought I'm going to do something outside of Millar World.
I love you. You are my most exciting person in comics.
So I had a 12-week window. I worked really far ahead on all my books and everything, all the work I was doing. And I thought, right, I've got 12 weeks. I can do Superman. I can go and do a big Marvel thing. And the Marvel thing I really wanted to do is the one we know about, right? Yeah. And I'm going to make that happen, but I need to go to Disney with that one. I need to go, go right back and make that happen, because it's quite politically tricky for the company.
Oh, I can't. If it happens, how much tape will that have cleared? I'm like, it's a wall of tape.
Yeah, I need to basically go to Iger with this, So Anyway, so what it is I thought, I've got a 12-week window. I could do this Superman story. And then I thought, Superman's public domain in 9 years, right?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
You know? Yeah, I'm just going to wait. I'm doing my Batman story in 10 years, you know? So, and my Joker story in 11 years, you know? So, like, I'm already picking the art teams. You know, I'm going to get started on these in about...
You just got to stay alive, Mark. Every day I go, I have to stay alive to do my Superman, okay? And I love when people are like, but you can't do this and this. No, I have his first story. I've already drawn pages in mine. Okay, he can't fly, he can leap. He's going to have that cool S. I got it. You're like me. We're good. I'll be fine. It's going to be great.
Superman was still awesome in 1938. You know,
he was great.
You don't need
his first appearance is brilliant.
Amazing, you know. So
we're going to stay alive. Okay, so now what is it? So I don't know what it is.
Right. And then Johnny Romita got in touch with me just by pure chance. And Johnny and I are great friends. You know, we talk all the time.
You are great friends.
You know, and Johnny said to me, "I'd love us to do something together again." He says, "Are you think they're doing something at Marvel or DC?" And I said, "Let's create something else, you know, but outside of Millar World, and we'll do it as a movie as well." So I've set up the movie, and I've set up with the director. We've got everything all done. You know, we start shooting, you know, early next year.
Okay.
Getting the script finished off just now, and we're launching a brand new project. So the trailer will be on the front of this interview. The trailer for the thing will be there, you know. So we're doing a whole new, brand new thing that nobody's seen before, and we're doing it as a Kickstarter on the comic side of things. On the movie side, it's going to be a movie in that sort of 60 million range, you know. So somewhere sort of between sort of Kick-Ass and Kingsman, you know, in terms of.
You know what? When I thought about speaking to you today, eventually, whenever we land on this subject, there are, I think, guys you have worked with, and John Romita Jr. is one of them. One of two guys who I don't believe they've ever done better work than the work they've done with you.
Who's the other guy?
There are guys you intrinsically understand their appeal, and when you work with JR, it's his best work. I think Kick-Ass is the best stuff he's ever done. Both editions, I think it is his best work. It leans into everything that he does great. Street level, grimy, violent, action-packed, dramatic, really quirky characters. That's why it shines. Have people forgotten? I wrote the foreword to the Kick-Ass collection. You asked me to, and I'm like, I can just praise this all day long, You guys are like peanut butter and chocolate over here in the States, okay? You're like a peanut butter cup. You're like a big cup, and people know I love the big cup more than any candy ever. Perfect layer of chocolate and peanut butter. You guys are great.
Well, thanks very much. And who's the other guy, out of curiosity? Who's
Hitch. Brian Hitch.
Yeah, Hitch.
He reaches heights with you. Look, I think there's directors and actors. It's like this kind of some of the stuff that we were talking about in regards to artists, writers. Look, there are guys who do not want to write their own stories. I get that.
Yeah.
And then there are artists who are completely wasted with collaborators. I got to be honest, most everyone that you've ever connected with, you get spectacular work out of. And some of it is my favorite work they've done. So, but Hitch and Romita Jr., I feel like they just went to a different space with you than I had seen them. And look, yes, to the audience, because this is funny, Mark, you've done this now. People will, if I don't address this, here's a comment that will be under this if I don't say this. But you know John Romita Jr. worked with Frank Miller, right, Liefeld? I'm aware. First of all, I'm fucking 58 years old. I've been consuming comic books before most of you were born, since I was like 6 or 7 years old. So trust me, I don't need comics history told to me. I am aware. John Romita Jr. has worked with Frank Miller. I put the work he does with you above that. It's
that's very kind.
Well, Kick-Ass is the best shit he's ever done, period.
I love his Wolverine run that we did together as well. Did you ever see the Wolverine we did? We did a thing called Wolverine. Did you ever see the Wolverine run we did, Enemy of the States?
Oh, yeah. No, that's really good, too. That's really good. That's a lot of fun. But because Kick-Ass went to an R-rated place that Wolverine couldn't.
Yeah,
Enemy of the State and it was two parts. It was Enemy of the State, and then there was
Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agent of Shield. The both of those, blast. I have them in hardcover. I have them collected. You are a big part of my enjoyment. Mark, honestly, you saved the 2000s for me. I meant to grab the Civil War hardcover as a bone of contention. Because in the Civil War hardcover, when they give your bio, they give some praise to Bendis. And I'm like, why is his name in this bio? It pisses me off. Because I'm like, no, Mark, you saved the 2000. I don't think they knew what they were doing when they tapped that Mark Millar vein. I don't think that you exploded and became something, I think, that even blew them away.
I don't see Bendis though. I mean, he was more valuable to Marvel, I think, because we were selling about the same level, but he was doing 3 times the amount of books I was doing, So I mean,
okay, whatever. Civil War is your story, Mark. I'm glad you're buds. This isn't about whether you're buds. It's like, why is he? It's like they're like, we better give some praise to this guy too. No, Mark Millar wrote this, okay? And Steve McNiven drew the shit out of it. That's why it's so great. It's so great. But it's like they definitely wanted to bundle you, both. It's like, it was a bundle, and I'm like, I look, all credit due. I think his Ultimate Spider-Man run is fun. But come on, it's not that hard to rewrite Stan and Steve's stories. Sorry, I'm going to be a complete, just as blatant as I possibly can. Hey, take the most imaginative work of Stan Lee's career and update it. Okay, come on. Anyway, I view things in degrees of difficulty. So yeah, it's Hitch and Romita Jr., and that's a compliment. Both are super talented. Both have had great collaborators. My favorite work by them is with you. So there you go.
Awesome. I mean, I love the Warren's authority with Hitch, though. I mean, that's where Hitch popped. Sometimes an artist, I saw it with you as well, an artist is already great, and then there's there's just a moment where they become something else,
See, I'm the bad guy here. I'm the wrong guy.
Did you not like the
authority with Warren and Hitch? I just didn't love it. Really? And then I'm like, wait, Frank Quietly, or Vin, is everyone, that's not his real name, but it's a great stage name. But you guys came on, Mark, that's when you became my favorite. I'm like, there was such a reckless abandon that you brought, and ideas and concepts and sentences that I'm like, the power in this sentence. When they're calling up the president and they're telling Clinton how it's going to roll out. And I've told people, when that second story arc, the first one with all with the Jack Kirby, whoa. Well, Jack Kirby is fueling. It's so great. People, if you haven't read it. But the second one where that magician, that cosmic magician, and they have to evacuate the planet to have the fight. Mark, I was like, what the hell am I reading? No, and Mark, you were the guy. I was on the phone as a 30-year-old man with my other 30-year-old friends. We felt like at that point when you and Frank were doing Authority, it was like the X-Men, the best days of the. I would equate that stuff with Uncanny X-Men, the John Byrne, Chris Claremont stuff. The ideas wouldn't stop. Frank Quietly just, man, he was tapping a vein that is not was. Again, it probably right there on that shelf right there. The absolute edition of Authority is never far from me. Man, that's tough. And then, hey, let's have Art Adams on fill-ins, okay? Like the last great work Art did is like, yeah, I'll fill that in. Yeah, I'll do that. So no. Yeah, I think Frank, here's the killer. I thought he then really did some good stuff early on with Grant Morrison, but I was only paying attention to that stuff because of the Authority. But then I guess he couldn't, complete the issues in the same way that he was, the same rate he was doing with you. And then that just fell off the rails. Bad management. What happened
actually, it was funny because, there's some guys who, when you give them more cash, they work harder and they can get even more cash. What I love about Frank Quietly, and he's a personal friend, I laugh about this, is that he says he just needs a certain amount of money to get by. So when they increase his pay rate, he drops the amount of work he does, you know,
Yeah.
and he just relaxes and has a glass of wine during the day instead. So he's got this really nice approach to life. But what it does is it means he went from being able to do an almost monthly book to maybe 2 or 3 issues a year.
Yeah.
Because eventually,
and the book suffered for it.
Yeah.
The hype was because, look, the hype, he was a really, look, man, he looked like Mobius meets Frank Miller and whatever else is between those. He definitely, there was a Dark Knight vibe in that Authority stuff. That's why I call it reckless. And the way that Apollo Midnighter, I love that stuff is gold. That stuff is golden. Look, you know, like I said, that led to your era at Marvel. And the thing I also love, Mark, is you thought like an Image guy. You thought like you ditched it so fast. You're like, I'm going and doing my own stuff. And that's why I was like, wow, this guy is a force to be reckoned. I want to watch him. Suddenly you're doing all your own creator-owned shit, right? I mean, it was fantastic. Like you are that's the spirit of comic books. Like, do your own shit. And of course Marvel's begging you to do stuff. You're an easy sell. Those lazy people, you're their favorite thing. Mark Millar's back. Put that ad out there. Put that name. We'll sell some comics. Now I'll go back to doing nothing. You're so easy for them. But I love that you gave them such a high bar. I got to cover my mouth because I'm gonna laugh. What you requested from them is like.
It's literally almost impossible. Like, it's so politically difficult at Disney to pull off what I asked them to do. But I think it might take me a year or so, you know. But I'm going to.
Okay, good luck to you. I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting. I'll buy that. I'll buy all 50 covers that they put on it. So is your new book from Dark Horse?
No, it's going to be a Kickstarter. You know,
okay. It's your own. Good for you, buddy.
Listen, I'll send you a copy because Johnny's just finished the first issue and Klaus is ink, you know, so it's all lettered up. I'll send you over, let you see it.
Oh, you're the best. And you know what, Mark? You're one of the guys, you and Robert Kirkman are the two guys who can vouch for that I am a vault.
Oh, my God.
It's so hard.
I've told you so many secrets over the years and, you know.
Here's what people need to understand. Since the early 2000s, you would, because our Twitter discussions are like the emails you used to send me. Mark would send me a guy and say, Rob, I'm working with this guy. What happened to him? What do you think? Can you evaluate this? and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know what happened. And then you'd be like, Rob, totally unrelated. What is this company thinking putting this guy on this book? That doesn't fit. And I'd be like, Mark, it's like we have talked comic books for about 25 years.
Yes.
And you, like I said, your success, I have watched it and loved it and rooted for you. And I just think you're a dynamo, man. And the comics industry, dude, Vatican City is another one. You're like, this is the greatest idea ever. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
How good is that artwork?
It's the whole book is so great. And I preparing for Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning, my wife and I sat and watched all the movies again because we love them. Yeah. And I just kept, when you get to Mission Impossible 3 and him breaking into the Vatican, that's when I was like, you know, I told my wife, I said, Joy, you know, Mark has a book that really takes us to the next level. And oh my gosh, Mark, that would make a lot of that should be on all platforms. I'm sure you'll have an announcement soon.
Yeah, we'll do something with that. But like, do you know what? I took my wife to the Vatican on her fourth date. Date. We went to the Vatican. I was kind of flexing, you know, I flew her to Italy, took her to the Vatican.
You're the best.
And what was amazing was you could actually slip a guy cash, which I thought seemed so weird in a place like the Vatican, and get a tour, a kind of secret tour where you don't have to wait in line. And everything. So we got a good look around it. And I said to her at the time, this is when I had the idea, I was looking at all the holy relics and the crosses and everything, and I thought, I feel really safe here, you know, like I feel like if there was a vampire apocalypse, this is the perfect TV, they'll never get in. And that's where the idea came from.
Mark, I went there. So we were there twice in 2019. It was the same. My daughter sang at the choir here in Orange County where I live. They were singing at one of the services. Yeah. So we took the tour the day before, and then we went back the next day for the singing during the actual like 5 o'clock service.
Yeah.
So I did. I hung around and saw a lot of the Vatican. I was really impressed. But you need to tell me the name of that guy you slipped that money to, because I'll be back there in 2 weeks. And I'm going to go up to him and say, hey, I know Mark. I need that tour. You got to give me his name. Okay.
Anywhere you go in Europe, there's always a kind of dodgy guy hanging around who'll get you tickets if you
I
slip
love
him
it.
euros and everything.
Oh my! So that same trip, my family, I had waited and postponed till it was too late to be along for the Coliseum tour.
Yeah.
But I decided to get out of the hotel and run over there and try and catch. And they had, I heard, we were behind them. There's an actor, and he said, I'm an actor by trade, but he was doing his own tour of the Coliseum. And Mark, I paid him, and that guy was way better than the one that the school class got. I got this trained guy, gave us great anecdotes, great stories. That's the dodgy guy you're talking about. He's like, I've got my own group over here. Everyone come over here. You can pay me, only cash. I'm like, I got cash, baby. So no, I love. Oh, Italy is it's my sweet spot. It's my. I will probably end up living there.
That's Johnny Ramita's plan as well. He wants to paint in Italy. Just that's how he wants to spend his retirement. You know,
we'll be a lot closer to you, Mark. We'll hop over. Are you in Glasgow? Where are you?
No. I moved to England. Like my wife is English, and she wanted to be a little bit closer.
Okay, perfect.
You know? And it's kind of good because it means when I'm traveling, I don't have the kind of, you have to kind of go to London and then up to Scotland, whereas I can just go straight to London from here.
London's a lot easier, baby. Mark, I'm going to visit you in London in the next couple of years for sure.
Seriously,
for certain.
But listen, I was going to say to you, like, Deadpool, we don't hear this enough, right? Like you see so much politics online and everything, and you kind of forget the truth of it. And it's like, well done. You know, you do. I don't think you hear it enough. You know, because think of that first film, a 55 million budget, making 850. The second one making over 800 million. And the third one making like 1.3 billion or something.
And yes, and I appreciate that. And Mark, it is the two Fox films. Were really, it was just great. You had worked a lot. You worked with a lot of people over there. They made some of your movies, and you knew a lot of the same people that I knew. Those were so fun because there was a real like, well, the first movie they were really uncertain of, and I think even to this day, the executive branch of what was then 20th Century Fox before it was 21st Century Fox. Has not been as honest with how much they just didn't feel like that movie would succeed.
I was in those meetings. I was in some of these meetings, you know, because I was working there at the time. And it's funny, this is how stupid I am. If anybody ever says you're really smart, whatever, you know, this is one of the many examples I give them. Ryan Reynolds said to me, like, I think we can do this for 55 million, you know, but, you know, it has to be hardcore violence and swearing and everything. And I was like, maybe you should trim out the swearing and all that and try and take it down to like a PG. And that was me, right? And what I said was, the example I gave him was Kick-Ass. Adults thought it was a movie for kids and kids couldn't get into it because it was an R-rated movie, you know? And I said, I just don't want that happening to you. And my God, I was so wrong.
So you just reminded me, I remember that chain.
Yeah.
It was Ryan and Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, and they were like, Rob, we heard you know Mark Millar. Can you put a good word? We're going to have a meeting with him because you were consulting.
Yeah.
Fox had you were, was it 2 years? How long were you?
Crazily, 4 years, believe it or not.
There you go. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, people. I'll give you a solid right now. I'll tell you what Mark did for me. You let me know when they were making Days of Future Past. You said, Rob, you sent me an email. They were going to kill Cable in the opening of that movie. It was Bishop that they ended up swapping him out for. But you're like, you guys can't do this. You can't. Cable's too important, and you can't be killing him in the opening 5 minutes of the movie. And you're like, Rob, I had convinced them to go in a different direction. And to this day, and look, I love how Bishop was portrayed. But I mean, here's the deal: Cable, just in the importance of the X Office, has carried more issues between that and X. So you were right. You were right to shine that light in that direction. And it also speaks to kind of, you know, I'd get calls too. Rob, what is an X-Force? You know, if I were to release my email chain and all of the, hey, Can you explain what this character does? What are his powers? What's the history? What my favorite? Like I already said it. What is an X-Force?
That's amazing.
so I appreciate you, man. You kept Cable alive. I was able to get to Josh Brolin because you saved him from being killed in the opening of Days of Future Past.
Do you know what's crazy though? Like when you look at how many Marvel characters, apart from the Stan and Jack years, how many have been created in the last 60-ish years? It's hardly anything, isn't it? In terms of things that have got legs, something that could be a movie or something that could be an ongoing comic, Deadpool, Cable, Blade, Punisher, Ghost Rider, I mean, you can really count on two hands the ones that can really, so to kill off Cable in the opening scene of a movie is insane. Cable could have his own movie, So
it would have upset. Yeah, I mean,
look, you're a kind of golden goose for Marvel. Like you made them a lot of money in comics, you've made them a lot of money in movies as well, and yet, like we talked about this, they don't seem to respect it enough. I think.
No. I don't look. Mark, it is hard for them to create. So, at 20th Century Fox, they treated me in a way that I was surprised how enthusiastic. And look, you had the same experience. They treated you with respect. Mm-hmm. And look, here's the deal. And this isn't, man, eventually there's going to be I'm just going to tell you right now, there's going to be a bunch of books on Kevin Feige, maybe 10 or 15 years from now. Mm. People from the Netflix division, people from, this guy masks one of the greatest egos of our time. Okay. Mm. And, I was, look, they really obviously struck gold. That's with Iron Man, 2008. Yeah, Downey Jr., Favreau, the team nobody saw coming, and that movie's perfect. And it launched an it was so good that it covered some of those rough early movies, like the first Thor has some good parts, but there's some rough parts in there. Mm. And look, it was when Avengers came together. We all were, I think, a little shocked that it connected in the way that it did. And it got this curiosity factor. I tell people, I had already seen it the morning Avengers came out. And my buddy, another comic book guy, I was with him. And we really felt by the second act, it looked like a Power Rangers movie. Like really going into the second act, it looked really rough. That stuff with Loki it looked like fake rocks when Cap and Iron Man, but suddenly they get to the helicarrier and literally the book starts reflecting your Ultimates more. It looks like a James Cameron movie. Mm-hmm. And then that third act, it just clicks. And period. It works. It shouldn't, but it does. It did. And 2 mornings later, so I see it on a Thursday. On Saturday morning, I'm at my coffee place that I get my drink. And I'm going to go draw in the corner for about 2 hours. And there is literally, they are 80 years old, 80-year-old couple. And they are in front of me to order. And she says, "Are we going to have time?" And he goes, "Yeah, we're going to have enough time." And she goes, "Okay, I just think we're cutting it a little tight." And I'm like, "What are they talking about?" And he's like, "Well, I've waited my whole life to see the Avengers. I'm sure not going to miss it." And I'm like, "What? This ancient couple?" I mean, they were not young. These are old ass people. They look like your great grandparents. Yeah. We're grabbing their coffee to make it. I even think he said, "No, we'll be there in time for the 11 a.m." And I'm like, man, this movie is going to just steamroll. Yeah. But I think Feige at Disney, Marvel has reflected him over the last decade. I have watched people we both know become more comfortable just being more the way he is, and it is incredibly dismissive. And I howl between James Gunn and my criticism. Mm-hmm. James Gunn shows that he flew all these Superman creators to set. Yeah. Okay, you can't see that Marvel did that ever before, ever. They didn't. There's not ever. All the Black Panther creators aren't on set. All the Thor people aren't on set. But I think they're like, oh crap, the bar's been raised. And so, like late last summer, they showed they in answer to James Gunn having all the Superman people, they flew a bunch of Fantastic Four creators. So good on them. I'm sure that was special to those people, and that's really nice and magical. But like, here's the deal, man. Feige comes out, and I have multiple witnesses, which is why he'll never do shit about this. I have my wife, my agent, and my publicist are with me. He comes out of the Marvel tent at an Entertainment Weekly party and says, Rob, puts his hands on my shoulder, help me speak Ryan Reynolds. And I will not reveal anything past that sentence. We talked for about 5 minutes. A meeting was scheduled. I had a Zoom call talking about he was just, I think, really having trouble grappling with the fact that that was not his franchise. And my Disney insiders had told me for years. You want to know why there's 6 years between Deadpool 2 and 3? Because he didn't want to make it. He only made it because his goose had been cooked on so many flops that they're like, we got to greenlight this. Also, I've read in the trades, there's a guy out here I listen to named Matt Bellany. He has a podcast called The Town. He's pretty wired in. He speaks the truth, and he will tell you, like, they have been on an epic kind of losing streak these last 5 years. He says they don't make these movies to make $400 million and to break even. These are his words. They make these to make $800 to $1 billion. Like, 400 million at these break even points are not why Marvel greenlights this. Matt Bellany said a year ago that Iger came back and cleared the schedules. I want everything remotely resembling a box office stumble off. And that's why some of the Pixar stuff got moved to this year. That's why Captain America and the Thunderbolts got moved. And it just became about Deadpool Wolverine, which I think Iger was like, we need a hit again. And between Inside Out 2 and Lion King 2 and Moana 2 and this Matt Bellany guy points out, like, Iger got exactly what he wanted. Nothing but hits. But the stuff he pushed off is going to weigh them down. And so far, Cap was a stinker. Thunderbolts is not doing the business they'd hoped. I'm not sure about Fantastic Four. I think it'll do okay. I think it'll be the best of the last three. But they don't value comic book creators. We're a nuisance to them, Mark. We're people. Imagine the guy that made this character, that he comes out of my head, nobody else's head, all the other coattails. If I don't wake up and imagine him, name him, create him, generate him, ask for all the clearances, can he be tied to Weapon X with Wolverine? He doesn't exist. Imagine not speaking to this guy, then imagine ignoring him. Like, it was like appalling. Like, but I laughed it through. Like anybody who thinks, like, I'm about to go sit in a theater and watch 100 of these guys. Come on, the Deadpool core. Who gave you the Deadpool core? That's me. I'm that guy too. You don't get the Lady Deadpool and all those. Okay. So I'm about to go watch all of them come to life again, kick ass. I know the movie's going to be tremendously successful, but to be like literally ghosted, all because I said, can't we get better credits than the credits we're getting? These like buried behind the sound technicians.
The only people who are seeing those credits is you and your families, isn't it? I mean, it's at the
that's it. And like I said, if you and I were to sit in the couch right now and pop on 1978 Superman, that's exciting when Siegel and Schuster once again to the comment section. Yes, that was something that was negotiated.
Yeah.
But it ultimately happened. Everything's a negotiation. I said, could we get better credits? That's an opening salvo. And from that moment on, from a guy who was, help me speak Ryan Reynolds, clearly frustrated, didn't know what to do. Maybe in my memoir, I'll go much deeper into that. I've just kind of parked that for now and haven't. But like I said, a follow-up call where they didn't know that I knew so much more. That's the other thing. They think that people don't talk, and they don't understand that some people. You know what? A fraction of that set that's shooting that movie is our fans. That camera guy, that sound guy, that makeup guy, they read comic books. And you're special to them. And Jack Kirby was special to them. And Todd McFarlane's special. People are, they have an affinity. They have a fondness.
Yeah.
And when one of the guys who worked on the film said, like, even during the set visits for Fox were totally different than this time I visited for Disney. The shoulders were very cold. And you're literally going, are you really, yeah, like honestly, where is just the kindness? That's it. You know what, Mark? You know what I've never mentioned in this is money. Because that scares the shit out of them. Don't you mention money and the bank accounts and okay. I'm literally talking about decency. And I extended everybody at my studio. If they created a character, they kept that character. Got names that you may not be as familiar with, but there's a guy named Chap Yap. He created a member of Youngblood. I said, when you want to take him back, it's yours. And last year he did a mini series. The character's called Dutch. He did it with Joe Casey. It's his, it's not mine. There's other guys who created characters all throughout. I treated people the way I wanted to be treated at my studio, and they walked away with their characters, with those rights. Some people could say, well, it's a pretty loosey-goosey. Image Comics is pretty loosey-goosey. To be like, we created a soft structure that allowed for this. So I practice what I preach. And it was just, so when you say it's not, no, it is $1 billion. Before Ryan appeared as Deadpool, he was making them millions upon millions. But over my shoulder, I could show you umpteen statues made in 2000, 2002, 2006, 2000. And Mark, the action figures were in all of the major toy spaces since 1992. Okay, since I launched Youngblood, that was the same time the X-Force lineup was rolling out, and you could get Cable, Strife, freaking Kane, Deadpool, Domino, Shatterstar. They were their own line, and they had told me, "Wow, the toy people prefer your." They said the toy people prefer your designs because what people don't know, and time and the way things roll out matter. The first line of X-Men toys was out in 1991. Imagine that. The #1 franchise for Marvel for 20 years. But they finally got a toy line. Mark, I thought the second toy line would just build off that, be Havoc, Polaris, more, mutant. But they're like, we're moving you into that slot. We're doing X-Force. And I literally was like, what are you talking? Like, are you serious? So there it is. Cable, they were all, you want to talk about a flex. And obviously they returned. There are umpteen Cable figures. There are umpteen Deadpool figures. I had to move these out of the way. Look, there's a handful. Hey, everybody, look at I got a pack of cables. I got a pack of cables right here. Good God Almighty. Like, hello. There's 5 I randomly grabbed, and I could grab some more, but I won't do that. I have, and you know what, Mark, the great thing is I get paid twice a year on all this stuff. Action figures, games, comics, it's been very lucrative. I'm very happy that my young self, if I could get my DeLorean, I just go back and fist bump my old 1991 self and say, good job. You came through for the family. The whole family's so happy. Like, you did a good job. But it wasn't as contentious back then. Those deals were readily available. That's why I was like, what, you mean I got a piece of this? Sign. So, no. And here's the other thing, Mark, is I'm not scared to come out and call them out on it. And that's the other thing. I was told in 2019 by, I'll just call him Harumph. And Harumph. He's such a twat. Harumph told my attorney, we don't like it when Rob says not nice things about us. Well, I don't like it when you bone me, okay? So, I don't really like it when you screw me over. So let's go. I'll tell you a showdown that, I'm like, hey, if we're putting Deadpool's costume on Venom, you can go ahead and write that check to me, okay? And I'm, there is shit. I'll call him up and go, oh, no, that's not okay. I love Venom Pool. It's Venom with the Deadpool costume. So it's like, Mark, I'm always just, you have to chase this stuff. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. I don't know. I don't know what your relationship is like with them. Todd has talked to me about some Venom stuff before that's not for me to share. But, I think I have had people for the last 2 decades call me for advice. and I kind of go, well, when was that deal struck? Because the deals that are being enforced for me go to the 90s, okay? And that really is, but if you're, and then there's also, like, Mark, did you create some characters for Marvel?
No, I was lucky. Stan gave me advice very early on, and he just said, don't create anything here. He says,
I love it.
yeah. And he said to me, I think you'll be good at creating your own stuff. And I was like, I've never, you kind of get into comics to work on the characters you loved as a kid, so I'd never considered it. And he said, no, well, the Ultimates and these things you're writing, it feels quite reinventive. So it feels like you could almost start something from scratch. And that's what gave me the confidence to go and do Wanted and all that kind of stuff. So I was lucky. What I did was I gave them Marvel Zombies, I gave them the Ultimates, all that kind of stuff. And storylines like Logan or Civil War and everything.
Sure.
But I never actually created any notable characters, thank God, but for me, it was Will Eisner gave me the same advice. He said, whenever you're at your hottest at Marvel, jump and do your own thing, so that you retain ownership.
Well, and that's what's behind me.
Yeah.
But just to wrap up this stuff, I can still enjoy Marvel, and I'm very proud of all the work that I've done for them.
Yeah.
I knew, look, the last year and a half I was there, I hated it. My editor, a guy named Mark Basso, nicest guy, coolest guy, his entire crew. Those people are busting their ass to get comic books out. Mm-hmm. They're trying to feed the pipeline that is current modern day Marvel comics. Just as all the pipelines get fed, it's those people in the executive branches that I think are just resigned to trying to be as difficult as possible.
But here's the thing, though, Rob. It's not as if you're it's not as if you're a one-trick pony. You've created a lot of things. I mean, you're an idea machine. So now, not to flatter you, but Deadpool makes $800 million on a tiny budget. Deadpool 2 does the same at 1.3. The biggest ever James Bond film made less money than a Deadpool movie. It's like, no, this is a money-making machine. So what, to kill their golden goose? I mean, if I was them, I'd be rolling out the red carpet. That's why I don't get the logic of that.
Hey, Mark, you know what? While you're like, so I was getting my car washed, and I walked in, and there's a Deadpool air freshener. Okay,
yeah.
And I'm like, that's rad. Like, there's air fresheners for Deadpool. I mean, he's in an air. He lives in a space like Spider-Man. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, Mark. So maybe one of the reasons that I don't. Okay, and here's the other thing. What Marvel wants, they want those credit sprawls with 15 names. Yeah. Because if everybody's special, you're not special. That's by design. That's by design. Okay. Let's put as many. Did this guy cough in a comic book that he wrote? Get him in there. Let's junk pile this. Let's get 30, 40 names, because then it's it's a community. It's you're not special. Oh, bullshit. Like I said, that is just. And you know what? My fans, the people who grew up with me, they know the truth, and they're not going anywhere. They're in their 40s, okay? They're in the prime spending positions of their lives. I met these guys back when there were CompuServe message boards, and they were finishing school. And now they're top detectives, they're top lawyers, they're top doctors. And I see them buy, like, not just my stuff, but expensive comic books, because their passion now, they are reinvesting in their passion of their youth. And they were there with me, and they remember that the book was one way and the book was totally different. Some people are like, Rob, I wouldn't even buy New Mutants. And then I was like, and then there's guys like Ben Morse, who used to work at Marvel. And I'm looking at his Twitter account. He's a professor at UNLV in Vegas, and he's going through and he's like, wow, when Liefeld takes over the New Mutants, it is immediately and totally his show. He has the whole book. This is his writing. This is last week. The whole book exists for his indulgences as an offshoot of his creativity. And then he says, Louise Simonson seems to just be playing out the string here, realizing the days are numbered. I wouldn't have taken the job if I wasn't going to be able to write it. And look, I thought the book was super boring, and also the easiest flip I could have done. I knew exactly what needed to be done with it. But look, man, 3 people routinely were wanting the job to script my work, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, one of them, the guy I didn't pick, he got other scripting jobs. Scott Lobdell. Scott Lobdell was calling me, pick me, man. You know how great I could do over your work. You know, I could script over your stories. Your stories are great. Then of course, you know, there's a couple others, but I had the best rapport with the guy who I affectionately refer to as the scripter. And I remember the summer X-Force came out. This actually the year after, because that's when the checks hit. Marvel would hold the checks. They'd get them within 60 days and not send you. And Jim Lee can tell you this, Todd McFarlane, everybody who was getting royalties, they wouldn't send them for 11 months. And so, you know, why Image starts a year after X-Men and X-Force is because that's when we got the money. And we're like, we can finance our own war chest now. Jim used to call it a war chest. I got that term from him. We've got our war chest money. I mean, suddenly you get seven-figure check for something you did. You get that, you know, in July from something you did last August or in June that you did in July. And so the scripter at San Diego, he was there 91, 92. And it was a very nice gesture. He came up to me at the end of the show, walked over to me and leaned up against the table. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, oh, fine. He's like, hey, I just want to say thanks, man. He goes, I was able to buy a really nice house with that royalty check. And I'm taking care of the private school for my kids. He goes, I really thanks for choosing me. And what happens, Mark, is I watch these people over 30 years, how the stories change, the truth changes. And it's like, what are you talking about? You literally, people always ask me, well, what were you doing when you created what was I doing? I was in Southern California making it up in front of me and mailing it to them with copious notes. And the great thing is I put up I would work on long yellow pads. And all that stuff is time-stamped. There's faxes. When Jim Lee and I convinced Marvel to get a fax machine, we were obsessed with them, but we said, no. And they finally got their first fax machine because Jim and I, two of their most important talents, said, we want to be able to fax you stuff to plots, stuff that you can read instantly, that we don't have to FedEx. It'll actually save you money. And but you look back and you remember how it was, but people then go, oh no, committees. Were you on a creative committee? I went to one creative committee and decided I'm out of here. I don't want to hear Peter David try and impress the room. I don't want to hear the scripter give his vision for the greater X-Men. Jim Lee and I were looking like, can we even do this? And the whole thing was going to be centered around X-Force. And I had outlined Cable for the next several years. The story John Romita Jr. drew, which is one of my favorite things he's ever done outside of Kick-Ass, the Cable two-parter, is largely based on the notes and the outline that I left them. But Marvel, I did an entire issue of layouts for Mike Mignola, and I went uncredited. And there have been plenty of people who've shown those layouts. In some cases, Mike followed exactly because they said, Rob, we think Mike's got some. I said, I love him. I love Cosmic Odyssey. I love all Phantom Stranger, all the DC stuff. I'm so flattered. But they're like, we really want him to work from your layouts. And then Mike even called me up. Hey, Rob, I'm so excited to be working for your layouts. But he's like, don't give me any aerial shots. Do not give me. I don't do down shots. And I was like, I've looked in his career, and he doesn't do down shots. Not since that time. He likes the camera in a certain place. Right. But I went uncredited on that. And so it's not unlike Marvel to drop a credit or to not include it sometimes. And yet, like I said, I've watched people, the stories change, and it becomes, Marvel wants it to be as much of a gangbang as possible, okay? Because then no one's special. You're all part of the Marvel family of performers. There's that great movie with Tom Hanks, That Thing You Do. And he's touring with the Playtone family of Marvel. Wants everyone to think we're special. The Marvel banner is special. No, we built the Marvel banner, especially in the 90s.
But this is an interesting point, though, right? Just to focus in on this, because it sounds to me, I've heard a lot of people say this, that Marvel don't like the idea of superstars emerging because it takes away from the Marvel brand. But at the same time, generic people create generic products, and that's what we've had for 6 years with the Marvel movies. It's all mostly junk, that's been coming out. But when somebody makes them a lot of money from a business point of view, surely that's a rare beast. I mean, I think imagine Ian Fleming showing up at a James Bond premiere. People would be going absolutely. I know he died before they came out, but people would be going crazy. And your stuff is making more money than James Bond. Like if I was them, just from a craven business point of view, I'd be like, we should give this guy some credit, just to get more out of you.
So Mark, I think we can just determine that didn't happen. I enjoy talking about, the way they look, and look, also, like I said, Feige doesn't want to slum it with comic book people. They don't impress him. They're not, that's not, he doesn't want to slum it. He doesn't want to have to make time for a comic book creator because you're not fill in the blank. But
do you think that's the root of the problem then? It's like he personally has no respect for comics, maybe?
I haven't seen it. Start showing me where he valued, I'm sorry, even Stan Lee, all of Stan Lee's appearances and cameos were heavily negotiated. The Stan Lee camp wanted those to happen. Right. And look, by like the 6th or 7th one, I think Marvel realized these are something that the fans really like. But I just show me the comic book talent that they have. I mean, Mark, the Kirby estate sued them for years. The Ditko estates. What you're saying to me, I don't hold a candle to Kirby and Ditko. And they were treated like shit. Period. Those families are going to tell you that they had to crawl over glass to get a meeting in the middle. Okay, it's just I always say it. We're the dreamers, Mark. I'm so proud of you and me and our ilk, our community, because I do really believe that what we do is tremendously special, and it comes from this very earnest place of just wanting to tell fun stories. And now they are quick to parse, what can we do here? What can we do here? How can we adapt this, adapt that? I believe there's a somewhere between taking it for granted and just not wanting to bother, because here, I'm going to tell you how they think. Well, if we give them this, what else are they going to want? It's classic Hollywood,
Well, something interesting happened around about 2019, because it's not only when they stopped doing big mass market things everybody liked, made 5 times budget and all this kind of thing. I noticed at the beginning of the movies, they stopped using the comic images.
Yes.
When they flipped all the Marvel characters together into the logo, they started using images from the movies. It became more self-referential. And I think a lot about the early 2000s with the DVD extras. And I remember those early Spider-Man interviews and X-Men interviews and Lord of the Rings interviews. And Ian McKellen and Peter Jackson and Bryan Singer and all these people are saying we really want to please the fans and respect the creators and everything, But there definitely was something happened, wasn't there? And you saw it with the TV shows where guys were being brought in to pitch for the things, and they were actually told you were at a disadvantage if you read the comic books. So there was some kind of weird shame being attached. Once they had the Hollywood success, there was some shame attached to it, wasn't there?
Well, Mark, so I have a situation right now where there's an actor who may or may not sign up for a role for one of my characters. And when it was presented to me, they're like, what do you think? And I said, I love this guy. He hasn't been a super powered character to date. Yeah. But I said, I think this would be reminiscent of what happened for the 4 Chris's, okay? Christopher Reeve, Chris Evans, Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth. All 4 Chris's came in contact with a character that transformed their careers. Christopher Reeve, obviously, look, I mean, there was outrage when Pratt from Parks and Rec. Why is he star? He met the moment. He showed up. He delivered. Chris Evans was at a bit of a career kind of fork in the road. I mean, he'd been in some movies, but it seemed like top of the line superstardom was evading him. Perfect match with Captain America. Hemsworth, largely unknown. Everyone got excited off of that JJ opening 2009 Star Trek where he's the captain. He's Kirk's father, but it's these roles can transform people, and and give people a career that they didn't previously have. And we've all watched it happen. And the four Chris's are the best kind of, the idea that they're all named Chris is weird. But the thing is that there still aren't big, tremendous names signing on. I know for a fact they try and get all of the it guys. They've asked Chalamet. They've asked Austin Butler. The guy who came out and Jacob Elordi, who, you know, I knew how ridiculously hot he was for my kids. My teenage boys thought he was something like on the rise, and my daughter was madly in love with him. And he came out and said, "I'm not doing those kind of. I'm not going to do those movies." And then Chalamet says, "Leo told me no capes. Yeah. Don't." And you're like, there's a circle of up and comers who are like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's largely, what's funny to me is a guy like Downey Jr. who won back everything that he had lost with Iron Man. And we, as Robert Downey Jr. fans, couldn't have been happier. I was just as happy for Robert Downey Jr. as I was for Marvel and Iron Man, because I loved Downey Jr. growing up, and I'm so glad that he was doing TV before Iron Man. Okay. Yeah. The Ally McBeal stuff. And he was great in it, but you're like, I wonder what route will bring him back. Well, it happened to be this.
Yeah.
And yet I you've got Scarlett Johansson, who's like, I'm done with Marvel, not going back. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Renner's now coming out publicly and going, they tried to lowball me. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, you've got more directors and more people who are now comfortable going on record as like, it's not all rainbows and unicorns over there. And honestly, Marvel does not like to. Mark, were you aware? I have lunch with my wife every Monday, and we were talking about Thunderbolts. And I had people in the industry who thought that was opening to $100 million. And I'm like, that's not happening. So then it opens $2 million less than they said. Isn't it funny? Only the Marvel movies lately have to be revised lower on Mondays. On Sundays, because those numbers are coming from the studio, but when the exhibitors put out the actual numbers, they lower them. It's like Marvel's like, well, what would sound better? What will get us a higher percentage than the... So Thunderbolts was revised down, and as we are having lunch, and I said, Joy, I got to be honest, I think they're going to reveal that they're the new Avengers by the end of next week. I think it's like a probably whatever week 3's plan is going to be enacted at the end of week 1. And as we were there, she's like, they're doing it right now. And I'm like, what? She's looking at her phone. She goes, they're calling the Thunderbolts New Avengers on the Monday after it comes out. And you're like, wait, yes, they had it pre-recorded, but I'm telling you, I know my theater owner, and I talked to him that day, and he's like, we got a call last night. We got a call on Sunday that we are going to try and get this. Here's the deal. The MPAA, that you can't just do that. You can't put a movie in theaters and call it the Thunderbolts and then tell your theater you can change the masthead to say New Avengers. That's why it didn't. You can go on and you can still buy tickets to the Thunderbolts. The poster can say New Avengers under it, but it's not listed as New Avengers because you sold it and it was booked and it was logged and it was recorded as Thunderbolts.
So desperation, you know,
the Motion Picture Association of America said that's not happening, Disney, because they were like, we've got to flip the script.
Yeah.
So I know from people in publicity there and people, the only friend that we had at the Deadpool Wolverine was the publicity people who said, we're going to keep our word to you. We said we would give you for your family, but it was kind of like I was being told, like, you're lucky we're letting you do this, and we're lucky we're letting you walk the red carpet. I mean, Mark, it was ridiculous. Now, did I laugh about it? And like I said, did I get on a plane and fly to San Diego the next morning? I went from California, San Diego, New York, San Diego for Comic-Con. And I had a 2-day signing with CGC. Thousands of comics, thousands. I worked for 2 days before San Diego. I am in a room with CGC signing. The excitement was there. The people, the fans know us. They know us. They're invested in us because they're the purest of the form, right? They're the people that don't need commercials. If there's an announcement, they already know they're going to go and they're going to watch it. They don't need to be convinced. But yeah, I just think that it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years. My phone blew up yesterday when they moved Doomsday for 6 months. We knew that was happening.
And if you think, remember you used to see those cards with like 25 Marvel projects over the next 2 years and everything? There's 3 Marvel things coming up, and one of them is a Sony movie. like beyond Fantastic Four.
Yep.
It's crazy, so there's a massive course correct going on here. And I don't even think Avengers would be happening if it wasn't for the fact they'd had the build-up. They kind of have to do those movies, really, don't they? And it's a brand people semi-trust. But I think something happened. You know what I think was the turning point? When something's cool and then it's not cool?
Yeah.
For me, the turning point was, when James Gunn got fired off Guardians?
Yes.
About 5 or 6 years ago, whatever that was. And I remember actually just before COVID, and I remember thinking, and then DC picking him up. And you're like, that's interesting, like it was too dangerous for Marvel, but just fine for DC. And then I mean, Guardians 3 was fine, but I felt as if James Gunn became a DC guy in his heart of hearts at that point. And it felt like all the cool guys were going over to DC suddenly, so those brand name directors, you're not really getting brand name directors at Marvel anymore, but the brand name directors are all flocking over to do Batman or, whatever's coming up over there, big name writers.
Well, look what you did. You did Superman Adventures. People were saying your name. They gave you the authority. You made a giant splash on that. Bill Jemas, they call you. They go, come on over, work with us. Ultimate X-Men, Ultimates, all the work that you do over there, you blow up. But it's within about a 4-year period. You're like, bye. I'm doing my own stuff. Ryan Coogler is now doing that.
Yeah, he owns
it. Yes, he came up, but after three, Fruitville Station, great movie, put him on the map, got him buzzing. I've seen all his work. Creed was mind-blowing. Like, you can actually build out the Rocky universe in this way. Then he does the Black Panther movies, and now Sinners. And I think Sinners it can't be stopped. The word of mouth is, they've got projections for this week that it will finish 4th above Thunderbolts. Sinners in week 7 will finish above Thunderbolts in week 4 or 5 because it's the movie everybody's buzzing. My buddy said, I had to take my kid. My freshman was like, Dad, we have to see Sinners. It's the movie and it is so fresh, and it is Ryan Coogler basically doing his creator-owned work down to the copyright. That's so much has been made of that. But, now will he go back and do another Black Panther? Probably. Just like, hey, man, if Downey Jr. can win an Oscar for Oppenheimer and then go to Marvel and be Dr. Doom, nothing is off the table. There is no amount of zeros that aren't attractive. I was watching a movie podcast the other day, and one of the guys like, how John Wick, Keanu was like, I'm over. And this is his words. It's on a podcast called The Big Picture. And he's like, and then they put another zero on that check. And he's like, okay, I'll do it again. I mean, there is obviously stupid money is something you can't qualify, right? Somebody gives you, there is an offer that can't be refused out there for somebody.
I don't know. I have a feeling Coogler's not going to come back for Black Panther 3. I have no inside knowledge on this, but Black Panther 1 to 2 had quite a big drop off.
Yeah.
And Marvel feels like it's sliding. So Black Panther 3, I don't imagine it would make as much. Black Panther 2 now.
Without him, no. I don't see them doing it without him. And obviously Chadwick was a tremendous loss. But look, the thing I want to wrap up about, you mentioned when they fired James Gunn after that controversy. I remember when Ant-Man #1 was a hit, and it's a good movie. And I know that was in spite of all the the friction between Edgar Wright and Feige. Yeah. And I think Feige's like, I curb stomped. Edgar and I had a falling out. I got my guy in there. Ant-Man's a hit. And then Ant-Man 2 did better. I think he was like, I can do it. There's nothing I can't do. I think we in the community were like, can you believe Ant-Man's a hit? Like, they've made a hit, but also there's stuff on film like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. There was 2 of those, right? I mean, we love when people get small. It goes back to the 50s, Land of the Giants. I mean, all of the whenever we make people small, it works best on movies and television. You can put them next to a big spool, a soda cup. I mean, we love size differentials. And so, but I feel like they're like, we can do anything. And they just started to greenlight a bunch of movies that probably shouldn't have been part of the equation. Yeah. Like you said, when you're cool, Mark, there is never a time that I have had a hit and that I didn't think about, when does this fade? Like this, you know how hard it is to have that perfect balance, okay? And I've had it several times in my career. And everybody at Extreme Studios will tell you, I had a mass emergency meeting early on, called 60 guys into our meeting room. I stood at the end of the room. I've talked to everybody, they remember this. I said, hey, everyone, things are going great. We're selling millions. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's going great, right? I said, let me tell you what this is. This is Camelot. Can anyone here tell me what happened to Camelot? Little, silent. I said, it faded. It all vanished. And they were stumbling around looking for the Grail. And Arthur has a son that tries to kill him. I said, you guys, we are in the Camelot phase, the golden, it's going to fail. So make sure you take care of yourself. Save the money that you're earning right now. I said, because do not think that this is going to extend. That was maybe the most important thing I ever said to everybody at my studio. And I think people are like, afterwards for 2 days, Rob, can you tell me what I meant? What that meant? I'm like, it means this is going to end. This swoon that we're having will not continue. And so I feel like rather than consider like, hey, we should make some hits. Marvel Publishing right now is looking at Band-Aid after Band-Aid. Who else can Godzilla fight? Can Godzilla fight Aunt May? Can we put 20 covers on that? Can Godzilla versus Aunt May? Another guy the other day is like, how many people will Godzilla fight? Well, as many as they can sell. But it's not a long-term plan.
Because even on the publishing side, I remember getting into a comic shop when I was 13, the first comic store I ever found. And I assumed Superman was the biggest selling book. And the guy said to me, it's like our number 50 selling book. This is 1983. He said, X-Men's huge, Daredevil's huge and everything. And I was like, what? Superman. And what he said to me was, a movie is really good for getting some short-term interest in something. And then people get fed up with it. It becomes Twilight, New Moon eventually, that people move on and it's the old thing. A TV shows get more value because it lasts a number of years. Right. And is it possible that in terms of Marvel characters, like it's one of two ways for publishing, isn't it? You've either got these billion-dollar ads for 20 years for your publishing, or every ounce of interest in them has been burned out by non-stop media saturation. Do you think publishing can bounce back, or do you think it's in that Superman 1983 phase now where people have just had enough of it?
Oh, Mark, I wish I could answer that. I have I believe it's all on such uncertain footing. People used to talk, you've talked about it as well. DC rallied back. Mm-hmm. And I think it's pretty well known. I don't know Scott Snyder very much. I would not say we are friends. But I was watching from afar. A lot of calls were being made. He was trying to build his army of creators that would come together with him and create this absolute vision. And then in the early stages when they revealed it, some what I call the purists were being very vocal. And last spring, because I'm like, no, I want to weigh in on this. I want to have I tell this to my family too, a lot of the tweets that I send out or things that I say are bookmarks. I want it recorded at what time I said something, right? I think you're a little the same. You want to see if your instincts are right. And the best way to do it is be bold, say it, put a timestamp on it. And I came out last spring and said, I think this is going to work. Everything that I see from this is that this is going to connect in a big way. I didn't know how big. It definitely had a tremendous reception to the point now, Mark. And I was at my buddy's store when, look, the only Batman they want right now is absolute Batman. Yeah. A generation jumped on. They bought issues 1, 2, 3, 4, saw the buzz, saw the heat, liked what they were getting out of it, liked this big, giant, muscular, Hulk-sized Batman that beats everybody's ass. They changed his story somewhat from the billionaire playboy, little more, little not necessarily grounded, but just a different path, just a completely different. It made Bruce more blue collar, have to work harder with his brain. That's the Batman that is now their Batman. Mm-hmm. And then to try and launch other Batmans, I said to my buddy, I go, it's like launching Pattinson as Batman, which no matter what anybody thought, that movie did very well. That movie was very successful. And I saw my kids go and see it, and they're not crazy Batman people, but they like Robert Pattinson, and they like Zoe Kravitz, and then it's like, what, are you going to give them Ben Affleck 6 months later? Because they've already chosen. You gave them Pattinson, they like Pattinson, okay? And so, but the absolute line has transformed the energy around DC Comics. And that absolute lifted all ships. Superman and Wonder Woman absolute may not be up there with Batman, but they're higher than okay. What I'm boring you with is it's organic. It came from an organic place. A bunch of comic book creators got together and they created a new entry point and a new vision. I got to be honest. I know Marvel did the ultimate thing with you guys, and it really worked to the point where I remember, like, the Avengers didn't matter. It was all about the Ultimates until they needed to raise money on the back of the Avengers. And so the Avengers needed to be the number one book in the industry. So let's put Wolverine, let's put Spider-Man in it. That was hysterical. And I didn't know, I know that most people didn't know what was going on at the time, but they needed to. And you know, some of these people, they don't do their due diligence. Avengers are number one comic book. Oh, look, it just charted number one with 15 covers and Wolverine and Spider-Man who've never been in the Avengers before. But now we got to get some financing. We got to raise money. We got to zhuzh up the financials. I mean, that was hysterical time. But prior to that, you know, you guys cracked that with the Ultimates, with the stuff that you and Bendis were doing. I don't know if something organic, it's clear Marvel doesn't know what's going to get them back on track. I've been very critical of how the X-Men were rolled out under the new management. Because, man, there's just some obvious, you don't put this guy on this book, you put this guy in this book. They're like, you know, I know a thing or two about publishing, and I know a thing or two about the X-Men. It's kind of, I think even people who maybe can't stand me, I deserve an X-Men expert. I'm an X-Men expert. I kind of deserve to wear that.
Have they approached you, actually? Because that seems such an obvious one to make you the godfather of the books, do the covers, plot stories or something. Has that been on the agenda?
It just really felt like they put the wrong teams on the wrong characters, and it was a stumble out the gate. And look, Mark, organic stuff is, over the course of this conversation, I've told you how much I loved Kick-Ass Organic, you know, how much I loved Authority because whatever you can say about Warren and Brian, you and Vince, your work did not resemble theirs at all. It was a total tonal and visual shift. So I don't know what they've got going on organically that is, Mark, I've been looking for a generational guy like a John Byrne who said, I'm going to take over now, like a Simonson. Look, people forget, Mark, I was getting Walt Simonson on some DC books. He was doing some short stories. He was doing some fill-ins. Then Walt Simonson comes over and he does licensed products for Marvel for like 3 years. He does a year's worth of Battlestar Galactica. He does, when he's not doing that, he does Aliens not for Marvel, but for like Heavy Metal. I don't know who did the Aliens standalone, but then he does Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, Aliens. He's like the licensing guy. And somewhere along the route, he did a couple maybe X-Men fill-ins, but somewhere he made a pitch for Thor. Beta Ray Bill was as staggering a debut issue. When Beta Ray Bill and Don Blake loses the hammer to an alien, you're like, what? And that last page with Don Blake on top of the helicarrier with the wind and the lightning and saying, Father, like you felt that hit you in the feels. The book looked amazing. Walt was flexing on another level. He took over. He became the writer and artist and the visionary for Thor. Frank Miller, Daredevil, then Batman. Like I said, what did he do for a follow-up to Daredevil? I think I'll go recreate Batman for the next 50 years. I did a podcast on the 10 ways that Dark Knight changed Batman forever. Okay, Mark? 10. There are 10 ways Frank impacted that franchise that that everyone continues to embrace. Okay? I mean, where are those guys today, Mark? Where are those talents that go, give me the entire wing, I'll take care of it? Is it because the challenge is too big? Is it because the lift is too heavy? I just don't know. But we were more reckless. my group, we were reckless.
Is it also like, everything's cyclical? And I feel where we are right now feels a bit like 1978, where things are brewing. There's a couple of, there's better things out now than there were 3 years ago, like the industry feels incrementally in a better place. Because to us, the past all happened at once, because we were too young to really kind of see what was going on. But things happen slowly, and it was only talking to Jeanette Kahn a few weeks ago. Jeanette Kahn was saying she came in 1976, but it didn't really start turning around at DC till about 1981, 82. It takes a while, And I think you can only measure yourself against the previous year and the previous couple of years.
Yes.
I think the industry as a whole feels a lot better than it did 2 years ago. Like 2 years ago, I think it was catastrophic 2 years ago. Like, there was nothing coming out pretty much, Whereas DC have really, I never thought it would happen because DC were in their lowest creative ebb I've ever seen, And DC have come out of that so well. They've come out swinging, haven't they?
Mark, on my podcast, I had a retailer in January say, Rob, because he had told me privately, and I was shocked that he went on, he said, Rob, DC was non-existent.
Yeah.
I have the biggest store in my county is another guy, and he said, Rob, Batman was our best-selling book for 20 years. And Batman was selling 100 books a month for me, minimum.
Yeah.
It had swells. He said, Rob, I'm down to 25 Batman. This is 2 years ago. I'm down to 25 Batman now. Mm-hmm. I love that retailer roundup thing you did. I watched all of it.
I'm going to get them back as well.
Those guys would agree with you that it's better now, but it's largely better because of what has happened at DC. And that retailer on my podcast in January said, Rob, I'm not telling you they're dead. They were non-existent. They weren't a factor. They had faded. He said, Rob, you read a letter or a column that Stephen King wrote in, I think, Detective 600, 700 was one, where he said, I feared for the future of Batman. Stephen King's words. He says, I'm old enough to remember, again, this is being written in 1985, so Stephen King, or 1986, and because he's talking about how Frank Miller roared life. And I've tried to tell my audience on my own podcast, when you and I are growing, let's go to 1978. Batman, Detective, Brave and the Bold, Batman Family, World's Finest, and maybe one more Batman-centric book. Suddenly, World's Finest is gone. Batman Family's gone. It's down to Detective and Batman. Brave and the Bold gets canceled. And they rebooted as Batman and the Outsiders. They give him a super team, right? To compete with like the Legion and the Titans and the X-Men. But Batman had been diminishing. And this is what Stephen King is referencing. And he says, I'm old enough to remember when Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, Tarzan, The Shadow, and The Phantom were important. And Stephen King said, and when one day I showed up and they were all gone. So don't think that the stuff can... So my retailer buddy is referencing that to me and said, Rob, I thought, the DC characters are about to fade into nothing. And I think Absolute Batman led that charge. And Scott Snyder, Take Your Bow, Nick Dragotta, these guys, they gave Mark, it's pretty crazy, I don't know if you've seen it, but in the first issue, he takes a giant battle staff and he screws it in. Yeah, he screws it into his symbol and pulls it off, and it's an axe, and he starts cutting people's hands off.
Yeah,
my retailer buddy says that. My retailer buddy says that people go, I like that violent Batman book. Which tracks with manga, where they pull your entrails out, right? Yeah. But I'm just telling you, I'm with you. It's gotten better. I don't know what Marvel's going to do. Mark. So sensing that we're probably near the end of this or whatever, but I want to say this. The fact that they didn't do whatever they could to have you back speaks to what's wrong with Marvel Comics. They can put an endless amount of zeros and give them to you. Okay, they can.
Not what though. I love the guys. I personally got on really well with them, but it's just, I think your life changes, doesn't it? And you do other things. I think going back would just feel so weird. I wouldn't mind going back for a special project or something fun like the one we talked about, but I would never take on a monthly book again or whatever. I think that belongs to a certain period in your life, though.
I know, but just, I'm sure that they have had discussions about how could we maximize Mark. He is a seminal creator for us. Like you said, and let's say it a little longer for the people in the back, Old Man Logan, a reflection of Mark Millar. Civil War a reflection of Mark Millar? I mean, your vision informs so much of what they've done cinematically, and that you're an important. Like, I understand you have your big deals and you've got Netflix and figure out a carve out. You gave them a challenge. You did. I only wish I could see, and I like CB. I'm sure he was trying to hide when you gave him the request. Look on his face, like maybe one eye twitched. Because that's a big ask. But look, I just feel like they need some big, exciting talent. For whatever you say, it feels like Scott Snyder has now hung his hat at Marvel for the better part of 20 years. I mean, at DC Comics. He is kind of really synonymous with them in the way that you and Bendis were synonymous with Marvel.
But that's what it's exciting. I mean, Scott phoned me up a couple of years back and we were just chatting things through. And I said to him, this is your time to jump over to Marvel,
Yeah.
Because when people least expect it, that's when it's most fun, isn't it? To go over and do it. And I think that's what kind of atrophied comics a little bit for a long time, is people signing 5-year deals with companies.
Yes.
Poach guys when they're at their hottest and steal them. It's like football teams, it should be a constant race for the best talent.
It should.
It? And but here's my prediction, right? And I predicted Robert Pattinson as Batman 5 years early. Speaking of the timestamps, I put this on Twitter 5 years before. My prediction is there's going to be a wave of guys who grew up loving the Marvel movies and playing Fortnite and everything, loving all the Marvel rivals, sorry. And I suspect those guys are going to be the guys who come in and save Marvel, because they're going to have this love and they'll have a way of thinking of we've never thought of before. So they won't grow up on Stan and Jack. They grew up on Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau, and it'll be their ultimate honor maybe in 5 years' time to come in and reinvent Marvel the way Frank Miller grew up on Adam West and reinvented Batman 20 years later.
Look, Mark, the thing I hope everybody understands, you and I have given all this time to, we love Marvel. Marvel's magic to me. Yeah. The Marvel of my youth is some of my favorite memories of my entire life. The romance I have with the Bronze Age of comics. And look, I'm going to be honest. Recently, I have really opened my eyes to how special some of those 90s books were as well, because it's been beaten over my head how much the people that I interact with hold those high, and they are 90s art, 90s comics are appreciating at a rapid pace. I think they were overlooked for way too long. But we love Marvel. Here's my thing, because people go, oh, Mark Millar's criticizing Marvel, Rob Liefeld's criticizing. No, isn't it okay to want more, to want better? Like, that's my thing, is flip it. I want a movie that blows me away. That look, I woke up, I went to see Final Reckoning. I don't know what these people were saying who saw it and how many influencers were like, well, there's no Mark, there is like 4 fisticuff battles and then 2 mind-blowing set pieces. All of the actors are Tillman from Severance. He's the submarine captain. He and Tom have crackling chemistry. I mean, the cast is off. I woke up this morning. I went to bed thinking about Tom Cruise hanging off the biplane. How did he not die? How did he not die? How many unseen harnesses were erased? I mean, it is, you will hold your breath, and he wants you to know, because Mark, there's times the wind hits his face that you're like, is that going to take his face off? Like the wind it's peeling against his bone. It's uncomfortable. This guy sacrificed. I woke up this morning thinking about an incredible piece of filmmaking. And whether it's Terminator 2, whether it's Alien, we've all had movies that hit us, stories in comics that inspire us. It's okay to want more. It's okay to want that I want a Marvel movie that I wake up the next morning thinking about the way I did Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Because I'm like, man, maybe they call Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie and go, how much money can we pay you to reimagine? Because McQuarrie comes at it, it's like Alfred Hitchcock meets Christopher Nolan. Like, he's such an incredible talent. I'm like, they just got to, the Marvel method of making movies, and you know this, previs the action. Even directors are like, I'm being hired to work with the actors. They've already done the set pieces. if your audience doesn't know, they previs them out with mannequins, the aerial shots. They work all that stuff out. So, but it's a cookie cutter system. It's very. It's like when you buy a pizza at the grocery store and you put it in the oven, and it, you're not going to the best pizzeria and they're not tossing the pie in front of you. Okay. It's Marvel is that DiGiorno pizza that you put in the oven and it tastes like Marvel. Look, we used all the same ingredients and we heated it up for you.
That's what happened with 90s comics as well, wasn't it? Because you remember when you guys were there was the superstars of the 80s like Frank Miller, Walt Simonson, John Byrne. Then you guys were the superstars of the 90s, you and Todd and Mark and everyone, And then they thought the brand is enough. And they couldn't have been more wrong because it collapsed within 2 years.
Dull. And it was dull.
And it's exactly the same thing as happens to films. Just to wrap up, we're going out to a birthday party in like 10 minutes or something. But to wrap up, on a related note, July has got Fantastic Four, Superman, and Jurassic Park. Now, you're one of the guys I absolutely trust when it comes to predictions. You're very good with predictions, right? And you're good with numbers as well in terms of getting them pretty close. Give me the number you think each movie is going to do, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at this.
Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm putting I believe Jurassic Park worldwide is 8, has an 8 in front of it. Mm-hmm. We saw it in front of Mission Impossible last night. ScarJo, it was perfect that she's super smart. I've moved away from Marvel. Look what Pratt did. What made Chris Pratt wasn't just Guardians. It was the next year he was in a Jurassic movie. Sure. I don't know if you've gotten the glimpse of the alien-looking, xenomorph-looking T-Rex.
Yeah, I can't wait.
He looks creepy as hell. Look, we love, like I said, we love big things and little things running away from big things. I think Jurassic Park is the biggest live-action movie this summer.
Yeah.
Superman is number 2.
Yeah.
And I want to say that catches what I believe is going to take Superman is the feeling of hope and the feeling of inspiration. And what he's doing, people understand, and you get it. I know you get it, but some of the voices, he is making Superman relatable. The crowd throwing shit at him, him being doubted, undermined, being told that at every move that he makes is a wrong move. James Gunn is setting him up as the underdog that's going to have to overcome all manner of opposition. But I feel like Superman will do better than Fantastic Four. I have downgraded Fantastic Four, but I'm going to tell you this. I don't know what the number is. I don't know if it's 680. I don't know if it's 710. Fantastic Four and Superman will be separated by 25, 30 million. It's a photo finish.
Yeah.
But you're not catching Jurassic. Look what's happening with Lilo and Stitch. I never saw Lilo and Stitch. My wife and I are going to see it because he looks so ridiculously appealing to me. Little Stitch. I can't take my eyes off of him. I can find 2 hours to go this weekend and be part of the conversation. That's what happened to Sinners. You couldn't not be part of the conversation. Lilo and Stitch, they said, is going to be between $180 and $200 million this weekend. People are going to charge in and see it.
$1 billion movie. Yeah.
I'm going to go see it. It's over $1 billion for sure.
Yeah.
Jurassic World, I just don't know if, but it's number 1. Superman's number 2. Fantastic Four. What do you think?
Well, tell me your numbers as well. What do you think the numbers are going to be then?
So I'm going 800 million.
Yeah.
Jurassic. I'm going 660 Superman. Mm-hmm. I'm taking the conservative. And then I'm taking. I'm going to go 680 Superman, 650 Fantastic Four.
Wow. Oh, I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to go 1 point, but just based on my own children, right? Because my kids are really good barometers. That my kids checked out of Marvel years ago and everything, So they're kind of always ahead of the curve, So I reckon 1.1 billion for Jurassic World.
Whoa! I think it's from your lips.
Right, so 1.1. Superman 800s. FF 550.
Okay, I won't have as much to account for. You went 550. At least I gave him a 6. At least, but Mark, here's the deal. Here, I know you got to go, and I'm going to close this. What my Disney and my agent and my manager said that Disney really thought Thunderbolts was going to have a bigger number, and then they said because the end of the movie was supposed to set up Fantastic Four, they needed Thunderbolts for you to love that, to get excited. So I was like, oh, that's an interesting take. I didn't make that connection.
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. My wife wants to see Fantastic Four. She turned to me last night. She goes, what do you think? I go, it looks okay. It looks okay. I don't think it looks bad. It looks okay. It doesn't excite me. Yeah. But if it's a great movie, but I'm counting on Gunn landing. I think there's going to be that. I just think we are going to all want to be Superman. We are going to want to be,
Superman seems really cool, doesn't he? You know that bit? He's only got one line, pretty much. Like as an action thing, but he's saying, "Eyes up here, buddy." That whole thing where, and it's such an un-Superman line, but it completely works, doesn't it? And I think
I like when he goes, Miss Lane. Yeah. When she goes Superman, and he goes, Miss Lane. Mark, I'm so psyched.
Do you know what I think he's doing though? Because Superman's always been played as this sort of like perfect gentleman all of the time. That's just the way since Christopher Reeve, or even beyond George Reeves and so on. And that's what makes him work, because he's like your dad. He's just this really nice man, isn't it? But there's something about this sort of slightly hyper-masculine Superman. This guy, he just seems like a regular sort of almost blue collar. He feels like a regular American. Yeah. And I think that's where the performance is going to be so important, because Henry looks amazing. He looks like Superman, but he seems like Superman stepping out of a comic book. Or there's something about this that feels like a character. I think James is tapping into something nobody's done before. That's what got me really excited.
You know what? What number did I give? Did you write it down? What number did I give for Superman?
Superman, what was he? We can play it back and check.
Did I say 670? Was it 670? Okay, I totally forgot one thing. Wow, yeah. I forgot about crypto.
Yeah.
I had an argument with my buddy the other day. He goes, Rob, they're putting the spotlight on him because the movie's no good. This, I don't agree with this. I do not agree with this at all. I said, no, buddy. I said, I took my family opening weekend Guardians. Mm-hmm. My daughter was 11 and she sat next to me, and my oldest was 14, 12, 11. 14, 12, 11. When the movie was over, she wasn't 11 yet. She was 10. She wasn't yet 11. And the lights went on, saw Guardians of the Galaxy. We are moving out of the very crowded theater, and my little beautiful Olivia looked up at me and she said, I said, what'd you think? And she goes, I am Groot. And I go, oh shit. I went, oh shit. This movie just connected on a base level. She is like, you don't understand. James Gunn made a star out of a tree and a raccoon. Okay. That crypto is going to pack him in. Yeah. I love that shot where he attacks the engineer in the theater and bites her face. No, I forgot about. See, I believe crypto is a super duper weapon. We've all loved him in the comics. Yeah. But my wife, God bless her, she's been married to me for 30 years in about a month. Yeah. Superman has a dog. I almost made her sleep outside. You can't ask me if Superman has a dog. Okay, but our soulmates they're not raised on this shit. So many people are finding out about crypto for the very first time. So I'm just going to be more solid on 680. You're 8. Are you 8?
I'm 8 on Superman. I think you could also go crazy.
And you said 550. I wrote down 550. You said for Fantastic Four.
To me, Fantastic Four, I'm really looking forward to. It feels like, they say we're all going to be making our own movies with AI in 5 years. Yeah. That's the kind of thing I'd be sitting at home making on AI for fun, just for me. Yeah. It'd be like a retro 60s Fantastic Four movie. And I'd be making a retro 50s Superman movie, a Silver Age movie with Superman robots and crypto and everything. So this is kind of like my dream. They're doing it for me, what I want to see. Does that connect with a mainstream audience?
I think it will.
That's going to be interesting.
I think they're doing a great job. I think they're doing.
Yeah.
It's going to flip the script. Look, we both agree Superman is going to be bigger than Fantastic Four, which means DC had a bigger movie than all three up at bats. Marvel had Cap. They had, think about this too, and you know this. So I don't mind saying his name. Don't get mad at me, Jeff. It was Joseph Loeb III. Yeah. We were having breakfast in Phoenix for a convention. It was January before the Avengers came out, 2012. So he's working for Marvel. He's doing the TV shows. Robert, you don't understand. The Hulk is one of the most important parts of the Avengers. They want those Hulk hands back in stores. And that's when he said, Rob, do you understand that Hulk is the number 2 licensed figure for Marvel worldwide? He says, when Ike wants to, pay some more bills, they license Hulk in another country. Toothbrush, toilet paper, lunch pails. And I'm like, holy shit. and he's like, Hulk is a giant weapon for Marvel. They need to get him back up and running after the stumble with the 2008 movie. And so now go to Captain America. They gave away the plot to put people in. They're like, we can't hold a secret that Harrison Ford turns into a Hulk. We're now just going to put it out there in hopes that we can make this happen, and it didn't happen. Hulk is a giant IP for Marvel. They made him red. They made him the focal point. There were giant Red Hulk standees in the theater, not Captain America, Red Hulk. He was the star, and it's still flatlined, break even. Thunderbolts, break even. And we're both agreeing that Fantastic Four won. This is a giant flip of the script, and James Gunn, the Warner's PR, DC, they will freaking, it's what we said. DC is getting their shit together.
I bought a ton of Warner stock, like a ton.
That's the best way. We should end it right now. Mark, so what? Here, I'm gonna get down low because I'm a little higher. Mark Swaggin. I bought a ton of Warner stock. Just put. Let me reword that for you. I bought a ton of Warner stock, bitches. Okay, that's where we end this. That was awesome. And you've got that. I bought a ton of Warner stock. I bought a ton of Warner stock.
I didn't spend money easily. Being a Scotsman, I didn't spend money easily. But it felt like, when Marvel was down at $1 a share or something back in 1999, I saw it was sitting at $8 a share and it had taken quite a tumble. And I just thought, okay, they're kind of on their knees right now. They're on the ropes. But they have some of the greatest franchises in the world, not just at DC, but across the board. They've got some amazing franchises in there. And I don't know if somebody buys them or whatever, but I went in quite heavy on it, because I think Warner's is going to surprise everyone.
Mark, from your lips to God's ears, it's going to be fun. At least we agree Jurassic is, and I'm going to tell you, ScarJo is a part of it. Yeah. She's a giant movie star. Yeah. She's a giant movie star, and her stock is going to go through the roof. Mark, I know you got to go someplace. I love talking to you, Mark.
It's been great, honestly. It's so much easier than writing it all down on Twitter, isn't it? What
do you think of this guy? I don't know what they're thinking. You never lose that boyhood charm. You are a dapper Dan. You should come over to the States more often. How many comic stores have you signed at in the States in your career? Is it 5?
Less, probably less. I've only done, I think, since the year 2000, my sort of breakout year, with the Authority, I've been to maybe 5 US cons, like almost nothing. Like, if you see an autographed book by me, it's probably fake. I'm
No. My buddies and I talk about how you have kept yourself off the grid. Like, you are not accessible in America.
Well, it's because I've got kids, though.
Of course,
it's what it's like, because you're kind of in California, so you're near everything, But I try and just stay at home with the kids as much as I can. Like, my youngest is 11 now, and she still thinks I'm awesome, But in maybe 5 years, she won't mind me traveling to the States. So weekends, I've got her, games and things. She's
we never missed it. All the travel ball. I'm the same. I stopped, and look. I haven't done a comic convention in 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I kind of, they're not what they used to be. So I'm really picky, but I'll do stores occasionally. But yeah, I know. So you've done probably 2 stores in America.
Must be more than that, but certainly
3.
less than 5. Certainly less than 5.
Less than 5. Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, I can't wait for all your announcements, and it's going to be great.
Cool. Well, listen, great talking to you, and hopefully see you in person soon.
Okay, Mark, thanks for having me, dude. Best to your entire family.
Be best to you too. See you later.
Buddy.
Bye then.